So glad to welcome you all to our Tara practice and contemplation session. We're contemplating this book, The Change of Heart, written by Chagdud Gonpa together with Lama Shempen. And we're on the fourth chapter on how to transform an angry heart. And as I'm going through this chapter together with you, I am noticing that Rinpoche dedicated a lot of time to this theme of how to transform an angry heart, because I think it's a very, very important contemplation. And contemplation doesn't mean that you read it one time or you hear it one time and then it makes sense and you kind of nod your head and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, what's next? Contemplation means you contemplate it over and over and over and over for hours, for days, for weeks, for months, for years, until it penetrates every single cell of you until an atomic level. They say it's like making tea. You can know how to make tea. You have the hot water, the cup, the tea bag, but unless you steep the tea in the hot water, you'll never really have tea. So it's the same way with contemplation. We need to really contemplate these things over and over until we're 100% convinced that anger is completely useless. Otherwise, as I've said in other practices, otherwise we'll never really let go of anger. We'll always find an excuse, because there in samsara there will always be a justification to be angry. You can count on that. Many justifications. You look for it, a reason to be angry, you'll find it. Step out your front door, there'll be a reason for you to be angry. The way the tree is dripping water on your head, the way the traffic's going by your house, the way the city hall's cleaning up the litter, the way the beggar went through your recycling. If you're looking for reasons to be angry, you'll never run out. But that's the point. We have to make the commitment, and we have to understand that it's not healthy for us or our society. So here's another question for Rinpoche. It says, I'm very angry about the tremendous destruction that is being inflicted, not just on humans, but on our earth, the oceans, and the rainforests. There seems to be an urgent need to act. And Rinpoche answered, those who damage the environment cause harm in many ways, and the negative karma they create hurts them as well. When we understand that the root cause of their actions is ignorance, we cultivate compassion rather than anger. Although we may act forcefully to stop such destructive practices, our motivation and state of mind must be compassionate. If our mother were about to walk into the path of a speeding truck, we would try to stop her. Ensuring someone else's well-being must always be our motivation for intervention. Then the question continues, but if we don't feel aversion to suffering and attachment to solving problems, don't we become apathetic? Why would we ever strive to correct a situation? And Rinpoche answers, let's take the example of world peace. The peacemaker is often attached to making peace, and the war maker is attached to war. The peacemaker has an aversion to the war maker, and the war maker has an aversion to the peacemaker. The objects of attachment and aversion are different, but the attachment and aversion are the same. Whether the dog that bites us is white or black makes no difference. The wound hurts either way. As peacemakers, we have to change our approach. We need to think about more than trying to prevent the war makers from harming others. We must also consider how to protect them from harming themselves. They think that war will solve every problem. They don't realize that their actions will only bring greater suffering to themselves and others. Rinpoche makes a very profound point here when he compares the war makers and the peacemakers. it looks on the surface like the problem is war versus peace, but he says actually the problem lies deeper from the Buddhist point of view. The actual problem is the attachment and the aversion, either to peace or to war. As long as, and this is a very profound teaching, but as long as we're attached, we're still lost in confusion and ignorance. For now, in the teachings, it says we should be attached to positive things, and we should be attached to our spiritual path and our teacher and the teachings and practice. But that's like golden chains. Samsara holds us in iron chains, and the spiritual path holds us in golden chains. And our goal ultimately is to be completely free. But to get completely free, we need to pass through this process of cultivating positive attachments. So even going back and addressing Rinpoche's paragraph, it seems like it's contradictory. But actually, for now, we should have some attachment to peace and cultivating peace. That's a positive attachment for now. But ultimately, in the end, if we have any attachment at all, it opens us up to all the 5 poisons again. So our goal is to go beyond any attachment. And at the same time, we have to understand that will not prevent us from working for peace and for working against war, but we do it unencumbered by any hopes or fears that we'll succeed or we'll fail, we'll get this outcome or that outcome, because it's those hopes and fears, those expectations that wear us down and make us burn out. If we can work with just a completely open heart and open mind with no hope and fear, we can work like the Lamas work, the Rinpoches. They work tirelessly. Many of them don't even sleep. Their activities are unbelievable. If you read the life story of Chagdud Rinpoche or Dilgo Chintsy Rinpoche, you would think that 10 people were working to accomplish what they accomplished. But that's because they're able to work without any hope and fear, any attachment, because that's what wears us down and burns us out.